You're muted, Chris.
Oop. How we doing? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Perfect. I want to say thank you for that one, Dom. Welcome back for another week of What's Bruin as we kick off the regular season tomorrow with our Boston Bruins. This is the fifth season of the fifth episode of the fifth season of our show. Uh, we've only been doing it in this iteration for maybe 2 years now, but it's been around for a while. Shout out to Kevin, who will be around probably later on. He helped kick off the show. But Dom, welcome in for another week yourself. And I know we just saw each other yesterday, but how you doing?
I'm doing great. Ready, excited, happy for a new season. We don't usually do this, but I came across a video on TikTok today from Boston Bruins edits. And I thought, new season, might as well kick it off with this.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paper boy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look, you're lost out there and you're all alone. Life is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, everywhere you look.
Nice little video there to kick us off.
Yeah, I got to give them credit for putting that together.
Little video there.
Not my style, but I thought it was great. So
You know what? It's cute. It's a cute way to kick off the new season, and obviously we know who they think is going to play a big part in the season. But we got rosters cut down, waivers went through. Patera went back to Vancouver, which
yeah,
talked about, but they actually did that one. So no harm, no foul on that. And Bussy squeaked through, which I don't know how much of a squeak it was, but not really surprised he didn't have the greatest of camps. And yeah, we have somewhat of a roster. Still some questions, but somewhat of a roster.
well, yeah, they had to go with a 22-man roster to get cap compliant. Um, I thought that they might have stuck John Beecher, Mason Lohrei in Providence as a paper transaction for the day, but I guess Ian Mitchell getting hurt today at practice. Apparently, there was a lot of blood on the ice, according to Fluto. Helped them out that they didn't have to do that. So, why don't we put the roster up? For those listening and not watching, you can go to Dom.Hockey, click under cap, and you'll see exactly what we're going to put up on the screen here.
Yep.
So,
already kicking on. Welcome in everybody. Bear Force Matrix kicking off the chat. Dom, you wrote that you yourself is great. Not wrong, but
I did.
Yeah, you put a comment.
Oh, I don't remember doing that. Somebody must have hacked my Twitter.
Okay.
So we'll see. Matthew Poitras starts on season opening IR. He still counts against the cap because he was on the roster last season. Ian Mitchell, same thing, starts as a season opening IR. He counts as 266 grand towards the cap. That is basically his cap hit from last year, which gets attached to this year. Alec Regula, same thing. He wasn't in Boston last season, so he does not count against the cap. So, excuse me. So we see that they have $145,666 in cap space with a 22-man roster. Um, that's
I
why they're
like.
unable to sign Tyler Johnson right now. We'll get to him a little later. But there's your
Give me one
roster.
second. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. AirPods got opened up next to me that are connected to my computer, so my audio cut out for a minute.
Okay. So there's the roster, 22-man roster. I don't know what the lines will look like. I imagine these are pretty close. Any surprises, Chris?
Um, I mean, based on the injury to Poitras, not really. I know some people are upset by seeing Morgan Geekie on that second line right wing. I think that's more of how are you looking at the line. I think Marchand Coyle Geekie is a line that we talked about yesterday pretty extensively that you can feel comfortable putting up against a Gensel Point Kucherov line against Tampa and feel comfortable that you can shut them down fairly well throughout the duration of the game overall. I mean, you're never going to completely shut those guys out or hardly ever. But that's a line that's very defense heavy first. I'd be interested to see where Poitras gets into this lineup when healthy. If they want him on the big club, and I put that asterisk there because right now with him injured, they can't send him down. So maybe they do want to send him down, but due to the injury he has, they can't. And
Oh,
so,
I don't think Tufty makes it as a third liner over Matthew Poitras.
well, that's what I mean. I feel like because Poitras out, I just I don't know. I'm a little Tufty's probably in Jones's spot on your list here, but I'm not really kind of fluke about that one. But if Poitras is in the lineup, then you probably see Morgan Geekie move down to the third line, maybe, or Frederick moves over to the left, and then you have Frederick, Poitras, Brazeau on your third line. Which,
Uh, but I could also see um, because every line but the third line has two guys that can take faceoffs. So I can see them swapping Brazeau and Geekie
Mhm.
just because Frederick hasn't played center that much that you have both Geeky and Frederick out there that can take draws.
So
I don't
you
know.
would think Freddie, Poitras, Geeky with Justin Brazeau moving
No,
up.
no. I'm talking opening night.
Oh,
To
opening night.
me, Matthew Poitras is not part of the equation.
So you know how we always talk about them being in pairs.
Yeah.
I think aside from the top line, Zaka, Lindholm, Pasternak, the pairs probably go as Marchand Coyle, Frederick Brazeau, Beecher, Kostelik. And then from there, based on situations, they can move things around because Beecher can slide over, play the left with Kostelik in the middle. Jones can play on the right side there. He can play on the left side on the third line. Tufty can play both sides, if I remember correctly. Geeky can play all three. Brazeau can probably get a shift here and there with Marchand and Coyle just to see how it looks. I mean, we know Montgomery is going to throw these lines in a blender 1,700 times, in a game anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, and like to me, Patra isn't in the equation because we don't know when he'll be back. And I'm looking at tomorrow night. That's all I'm concerned about. So um, the only change I could see them making there is Brazil and Geeky.
Yeah, Based on how it sits, yeah. But you know what? I've said this a bunch with Justin Brazeau. I had to see how his camp went. So far, looked pretty good. Definitely looks faster than more fleet of foot than last year. I'm willing to give him the chance. I got to see how he is
And
against
that third line to me doesn't look good the way I've got it there because they've spent no time together.
Right. Let's see.
At least with Geeky and Frederick, you have.
Jason jumps in, says was rooting for Tufty, but I'm surprised he made it. So
I'm not. I thought he had a good camp. Remember, it's not just what you see in the exhibition games; it's what you see, what the coaches see in practice.
right. Now, just to clarify for some of those who are unsure on how IR works, so Poitras, Mitchell, and Regula all have to remain on IR for a minimum of 7 days, correct?
No, it's season opening IR. So
different from
in Regula's case, it was a pre-existing injury um, from last season. So technically, he's the SOIR. Mitchell and Poitras, because it happened in camp, are injured non-roster players. So they're not counting on the roster, but their cap hits remain.
Okay. So how long until they have to get how long until do they have to get healthy and be in that role?
When the doctors clear them.
Okay. So once they're cleared, then they have to find a way to move them onto the roster. And instead of, what are they at, 22 guys, we said?
Yeah, in Poitras' case, he just goes right on.
Okay.
He's already counting against the cap, and they have a roster spot.
Okay. And then Mitchell, when he's ready, they'll probably just send him through waivers.
They'll waive him and send him down. That's my guess. Say with Regula.
That would be my guess. Barring, I mean, if there's an injury, let's say if Wotherspoon gets a tweaked ankle in Game 4 and Mitchell's getting healthy at that point, then they might wait to waive him until they get Wotherspoon back. But those are a little.
No, you can waive them as long as they're healthy. It doesn't mean you have to send them down. You've got 30 days or 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate this lineup. I really do like it. I think there's some flexibility in there, and they're cap compliant. They have a little bit of room. I wish that 682, 143 of deadline cap space would be a little higher, but they're going to do
that'll change. That'll change.
Do a zillion paper transactions to try to maximize that. So, Cape Bruiner asks, "Are we in for a 50-point season for Mason Lohrei?"
A not so wise fella said that within 3 years, Mason Lohrei will be better than what's that guy everybody wanted the Bruins to trade for, and include Lohrei in the deal. Anyway, I can't remember the guy who said it. So this year, 50 points, I would have to say no.
You'll take the under on that.
I'll take the under on it.
I don't see him being crazy far off. I could see a 42-point season. He'll get time on the power play, and I think that'll help with his point total. It depends on if he takes the power play time and runs with it and grabs that bull by the horn and works his way up from PP2 to PP1. And he seems determined enough to be able to want to do that. So if he does, then that's fine. I'm open to it. And then I will say, Fluto Shinzawa tweeted out earlier the lines at practice. They did have Jones, Frederick, and Brazeau Beecher, Kostelik, and Kepke. And then they had Lindholm, McAvoy as a pair, Lohrei, Carlo, Zadorov, Peak, Wotherspoon, Mitchell, obviously. Mitchell got hurt. And then Korpisalo and Swayman. So,
And Montgomery saying that Swayman might be a possibility tomorrow night.
do you buy that?
If
Showmanship.
I do. I think Swayman's put in the hard work. By the way, did you notice in Montgomery's presser how curt and he looked pissed off?
I haven't had a chance to see the press conference. No.
Gosh, he looked pissed off about something.
Matrix points out it's a beefy lineup. Absolutely, it's a bruiser lineup. Appreciate the kind words, Kate Bruiner. Steve has a really good question here. Do you think they'll sign Tyler Johnson?
Well, we were going to get to that. Listen, there's some incorrect information out there on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that is saying PTOs had to be signed by 5:00 tonight.
Not true.
It's not true. We saw it with Danton Heinen last year. So I don't know how that information started, but it's totally incorrect. They could sign him. They need to make cap room first.
To anybody who believes that, my first question would be, so then explain Danton Heinen last year. That would be my first question to just prove that one wrong.
No, to me, they don't even deserve a response. I'm not wasting my time with them.
That's also fair.
I keep telling everybody, watch this show. You'll get the truth as we see it and we know it. So, but Johnson, if they want to sign him, first of all, Poitras has to get healthy. Johnson would have to accept a league minimum contract, $775,000, and then the Bruins would have to decide on Tufte or Kepke and waive one of those, and then they'd have the room to sign Johnson.
Now, between those two and Johnson, if you had to pick two of them, are you keeping Tufte and Kepke? Or would you replace one of them?
I want to see them in real game action.
And then
I got nothing to base a decision on.
Fair. And we also don't know, because Max Jones, I think, only played one preseason game. So we really don't know what
Correct.
Him either. Now, obviously, the higher contract value makes you think they think a little higher of him, and he was a first-round draft pick, which we know they really like. So maybe that's part of it. But, I mean, if he's just really not up to it, he could be the one that's on the chopping block. Like, there's plenty of moves that they could make. And once Poitras healthy, they could send him down to Providence, and then they use money to sign Tyler Johnson. And, there's possibilities, and that, again, is something that I always preach about what Don Sweeney does. This lineup gives him the possibility to do so many different things. He's not hamstrung. He doesn't have as much cap space as I'm sure he'd like to work with, but as they accumulate more over the course of the year, he can make different decisions and paper transactions. They're supposed to play on Tuesday. Now, I know they were supposed to make the call today as to whether or not the game might actually get postponed because of the hurricane. I haven't heard anything on that.
Last I heard, the game was on.
So that's the last I heard too. So I'm assuming they play tomorrow. Then they won't be playing Wednesday. So you might see some paper transactions done on Wednesday. Or let's say they postpone the game last minute because of the hurricane, then they might do a couple, a paper transaction.
I
Actually,
doubt it. I doubt we see it this early in the season.
yeah, probably not, because right now, really, it's only Beecher and Lori. Yeah. Let's see. Matrix says Poitras is a vital piece of this main roster. Just see him being sent down to Providence. I want to come back to that because there has been a lot of talk about Poitras being down in Providence, and I know we've talked about it before. So it's definitely something people have in their head. Matrix says just don't see him being sent down. Did Jones play in 2, or was it just the one preseason game?
He played one in a period, I think it was.
Okay, that might have been it. I was gonna say I don't
I don't
remember
think
seeing
he,
him a lot.
I don't think he finished the second game. In fact, I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Yeah, because he got hurt and then he came back and played one more, if I remember correctly. But yes, he would have dressed for 2. Kevin jumps in and says, I myself hope they do end up signing Johnson. I think he would be a great addition to this lineup. But if they don't, they will be just fine. I mean, talk about sitting on the
You
fence.
know what? I'll say this with Johnson. The power play looked a lot better with him on it than without him.
Yeah, I
Through
did notice that.
exhibition.
I thought that about the power play too. And I definitely think the fact that no one else has offered him a contract despite having had a decent preseason, I do wonder if we're looking at another Danton Heinen situation where
Well,
they.
we don't know that nobody's offered him a contract.
Well,
What
true. He
it's
hasn't
it's
seen.
quite possible that the Bruins did the same thing with Heinen last year and said, "Look, we're going to sign you, but you just have to wait until we get our roster in order and our cap situation fixed," which is what they did with Heinen last year.
Yeah,
Johnson could have got 10 offers and said, "No, Boston is where I want to be."
right.
So to
He
say
hasn't
he's
signed one.
got no offers is just guessing. I mean,
Fair.
I'm just guessing, but we don't know.
We don't know. He remains unsigned. That's what we do know. So yeah, he
Yeah.
could just be eating out for a Boston Bruins contract, which I mean, I don't blame him. I'd want to be part of this roster too, especially knowing that the reason why you're not part of it yet is because Jeremy Swayman just signed. So, it kind of again, when I say it threw a wrench in the plans, it didn't happen a month ago or 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when it could have, and they had more time to make these decisions. So let's see. Kevin says that was my main thought last night that I said he would improve the power play. Yeah, I think he did, and the fact that he can play all 3 positions, I think helps. I know he's a smaller guy too, so maybe having him around might help a guy like Poitras learn how to take a hit on a smaller body compared to some of the trees that are around him. I know, again, we were talking about Poitras being sent to Providence and the physicality of the game. That's a big reason why people bring that up. What are your thoughts on Poitras kind of getting ready for the NHL level by actually playing American Hockey League games?
Look, if the argument is to send Patra down because he doesn't know how to take a hit yet at the NHL level, here's my counter to that argument. The AHL hits harder, hits more often, and is dirtier than the NHL because these are guys fighting to survive, and they will do whatever it takes. Uh, so for every hit that he took in that Flyers game, that injured him, there's 5 more waiting for him in the American Hockey League.
Yeah. I think the idea behind it is he'd be on a lighter schedule, at most 3 games in a weekend. as
But
opposed
that's
to
3-3 a lot of times,
yeah.
which is not a lighter schedule.
These aren't my arguments, Tom. I'm with you.
Yeah, but I'm countering the arguments.
I know.
It's
Um, yeah, this is what I'm here for. I read the dumb comments on Twitter and I get your opinion on them because you don't want to go through them. But
no, I don't.
I just think Poitras up to stay. I don't see the reason. What does he gain other than maybe a conditioning stint? What does he gain from being sent down to Providence? I
This one,
don't see very much.
Michael.
Oop, right here, this one here. Montgomery is similar. Like Cassidy doesn't want to give young guys a chance. Hashtag Merkulov to KAHL. What chance didn't
That's
Merkulov
just
get?
false. No, it's false. Poitras made the roster out of camp last year as a 19-year-old, and Montgomery won't give him the chance. Mason Lohrei should have been on the roster out of camp, but the cap prevented him from doing it. But every time he came up, Montgomery used him and kept him there. Beecher, same thing. It's false to say that Montgomery won't give them a chance.
What are you talking about with Fabian Lysell? Fabian Lysell proved that he's not yet ready to be in the NHL consistently. Has he had flashes of his game at its ceiling? Absolutely. He's had some really good shots, and he had some really good moments on the power play in his last game. But he's not ready. And he's only 21 years old. So it's okay to say he's not ready. It's not a matter of him not getting a chance. It's a matter of when he's been given the chance, it hasn't been there in full. And because of that, he's not taking the bull by the horns and running with it and taking a spot. Until he's ready to do that, he needs to develop. And the National Hockey League is not a developmental league. That is what the AHL is for. And that's okay for a 21-year-old. If he's still like this at 25, 26, 27, and he's showing flashes all the time and much more consistent, totally fine. I can get behind it, but he's only 21. He didn't take advantage of the opportunities he was given. Poitras, look at him last year. Beecher, look at him last year. Lohrei, look at him last year. They all made the roster because they took advantage of their opportunities. Cole Koepke and Riley Tuff are not ready and look slow and not physical. Tyler Johnson. I thought they both.
Koepke, all three of those guys look better than Fabian Lysell, Michael. Look, I already proved you wrong on the Montgomery won't play the kids. Let's go back a year ago. And Koepke, Tufte, and Johnson all look better than Fabian Lysell.
Kevin says, just made the mistake of reading comments on the Bruins opening roster. People are dense. Matrix jumps in and says, no, you mean stupid. And yes, Court, we are going today on Monday because of the game tomorrow. We want to let people watch the game. I am considering, and I know a few of you are on the Twitter. I'm considering doing hosting a Bruins opening night Spaces tomorrow on Twitter. If there's enough votes in the chat for it, then and actually, you know what? Let me pull us up on YouTube. I'll put that in a. I'll let the people vote. Court says that you're dropping fact bombs, Dom bombs. One said, "Where is Johnson?"
Once in a while, I do.
But that big goofball Brazeau made the team. Sweeney sucks. He really does. Kill me, please. Wow, that's harsh. Just because Brazeau's on the team, even I'm not like that, and I was down on Brazeau. Let's see. Matrix asked a good question. If and when Johnson does sign from the PTO, where do you see him playing? Which line? Because I think when Poitras comes back, he should be third line center. I think this is just my thought. I think if they do end up signing Johnson, they will look at him to be the third line center, and they will want to put Poitras on the second line right wing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been seeing him play wing. I think they really for this year, they feel that might be an option for him, and so we'll probably see that at least
But
to start.
they played him on wing one game and immediately threw him back to center.
Yeah, but I think the plan look
at He's him to be also the better-
and they will want to put Poitras on the second line right wing. You there?
I think they, with his added strength, he was better on faceoffs. I don't know. I'm not going to predict. I think it comes down to Tufte, Kostelic. Now I think Kostelic has made the team. It'll come down to Tufte and Koepke, and are they better than what Johnson has shown at this point?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So they'll make that decision, and if they have to, they'll drop one of the two and then figure out where he fits in.
There we go. Just threw that poll up on YouTube. So if anybody's watching on YouTube, take a vote on that one. Let's see. Michael clarifies this is just playful chatter, by the way, which, yeah, fine. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean you're not wrong. Let's see. Then he adds in, curious, who do you guys think signs first? Frederick, Geeky, Brazeau, or Marchand? And then he says, P.S. I saw Loke Johansson, who looks solid playing top 4 minutes for Moncton, who we actually talked a little bit about last night.
I think Frederick will be the one to sign first.
I don't disagree. I think Freddie went, I think he wants to be here. I think he likes being here. Montgomery has really helped him elevate his game. I hate to say it, but I can see them letting Geeky walk.
Depends on what the kids are doing down in Providence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just saying, I think as of right now, based on if some of those kids step up and become third line guys, fourth line guys, they might let him walk, because if he has a good enough season, someone might pay more than they want to. And that's okay. That means he's had a good season, a good run with the Bruins. And, we've had plenty of those guys before. Brazeau, if he goes off and has a 15, 20 goal season, he may also end up getting a contract that's not worth the Bruins hanging on to him. But that's okay. Let's see. Matrix says Frederick Poitras Geeky is the best option for the third line. We've been saying that for a few months, I think. Fair to say, Dom?
Yeah, at least.
Kevin says if Geeky has another huge step this season, I don't know if they move on from him. He's still young.
Depends on what happens at trade deadline, Kevin.
Yeah.
They might bring somebody in with more upside and, want to sign, because we know what Don Sweeney's motto is: trade for them and then sign them.
Yeah, and as Matrix points out, he's still an RFA, so at least through restricted free agency, they'll probably hang on to him.
Well, no, they can just not qualify him.
Yeah, but I don't know. We have to see how it plays out. Like you said, we have to see what the kids are doing down in Providence as well. He's one of the guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they moved on from. That's all I'm saying.
I wouldn't either, but again, depends on what Sweeney does to finish this roster.
Let's see. We've been talking heavy about the bottom 6 guys. Let's see. Yeah, Kevin says hard to dissect these early into the season. What would you consider to be a successful season for Elias Lindholm between Zacha and Pastrnak, obviously assuming health during the duration of the season?
70 points.
That's right around the number I had in mind. I don't think with those two guys on the wings, you should expect anything less. Michael's got a good question here. What offseason move in the NHL do you guys think will have the most impact this season?
Line 8 to Montreal. Just because they got a whole bunch of LTIR money to use now. I think you can't break it down to just one move, but series of moves. I like what New Jersey has done. I obviously like what Boston has done. I'll be in the minority here. I like some of what Toronto has done.
I question their defense heavily, though. I love the addition of Anthony Stolarz back behind Joseph Wall. I think that was a fantastic, solid move. I just question the defense. I have to see it before I can believe in it.
Well, yeah, but like I said, I like some of what they've done. Edmonton, simply because they signed Draisaitl.
I will say an underrated move on that. They brought in Jeff Skinner. They have another year of Henrique, and let me see. There was and Arvidsson. They brought in Victor Arvidsson on the wing for Draisaitl. I love that move for them.
But I think the biggest winner is Nashville.
Yeah, they're going to have Stamkos on a revenge tour. On the opposite, Jonathan Marchessault, who's on a revenge tour. And I know I think people sleep a little bit on Tommy Novak. I think now that he's got those two guys on his wings, like, watch out for him.
Yeah, Nashville did really well.
Oh, yeah. James's question, do you think Bruins are constructed better now to face Florida in the playoffs? I mean, they're certainly better constructed than they were last year for the playoff run. I think that Zadorov in for Forbort and Grizzly out. I think that really is an upgrade for them as long as everybody's healthy. You got to remember that Florida's lost some pieces too. So their third line or fourth line rather is going to have Jesper Boquist and AJ Greer on it.
Yeah, to answer the question, yeah, I think they're better. They're better. I don't want to say better prepared, because preparedness comes from the coaching staff. Let's just say they have the roster to be successful in the playoffs. Whether they get there depends on the four guys behind the bench: Montgomery, Sacco, Chris Kelly, and Jay Leach.
Yeah. And real quick, Michael points out Jeremy Lauzon has developed into a respectable D-man, which he has. I mean, he's holding down the third pair. That defense is a solid 6. I put Boston 6 above them because they go 7 deep, but Yossi, Fabro, Shea, Shen, Lauzon, and Carrier, that's a pretty good defensive lineup right there.
I can tell you the Bruins did not want to lose Jeremy Lauzon in the expansion draft.
I didn't think so. I liked what he could become. And, I mean, last year he led the entire league in hits. Like, I would have liked to have kept that around. He was decent. Again, I'm not saying first pick.
Imagine if they had him instead of, say, Matt Grzelcyk.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Well, if they had him, do they even sign Derek Forbort?
Probably not. No.
There you go. Kevin says, I'm curious to see the Ullmark impact in Ottawa. Is it going to be a Buffalo situation where he was good, but it was a shit show around him, or will he help elevate the whole roster?
I think he helps the roster. His time in Boston will benefit that to see what good leadership can do. I don't think that he ever became a leader per se in Boston, but he can bring some of that to the Ottawa dressing room, which will help the younger players. That's my firm belief.
And he brings some playoff experience. I mean, really, if you look at the guys that are on that roster, he's got playoff experience. David Perron and Claude Giroux, between the three of them, that's their playoff experience. This is still a young
Hmm.
team. Although, did Claude have some?
Who?
Thomas Chabot and Travis Hamonic. They have both of those guys on D. I'm sure they've been in the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think
But
Shabbat has.
maybe not. But again, it's not a lot. The three core guys that have been in the playoffs are Giroux, Perron, Allmark, and I think Nick Cousins as well. I just remembered they
Yeah.
have him. So, but still, it's not the same. Sassy Blondie says Lazan was a good egg. Kevin says Lazan did well in Boston until he went down with the injury. He looked good next to McAvoy. Yeah, and who was the other one? Zboril. Zboril looked pretty good too in that role until he kept getting hurt too. So you feel for the kids, but it's nice to see Lazan was able to catch on somewhere. Swede Chef says if the Bruins struggle this season, it will be to a lack of scoring. The D and goaltending will be good.
Yeah, but this team is built, as much as you guys don't want to hear it, it's built to win 2-1, 3-2 games. It's not built to win 7-3 or 7-4. It's just not built that way.
No, it's
Uh,
not.
we know defense wins championships. Um, like you said, the defense is good. The goaltending is good. Um, now it's just about getting a couple of goals. I think
Yeah.
their PK has to improve from seventh. I think it was last year.
Yeah, but there
Um,
was it was down damn near bottom of the league, like 20 something towards the end of the
what's
year.
that?
Wasn't there a stretch last year where their power play went anemic and was bottom of the league?
Yeah, but they finished seventh.
Yeah.
Still, it doesn't matter if they had a bad stretch. They finished seventh. We're used to seeing this team in the top three.
And Sweden,
So they got to get.
they'll be better
They
on
got
the
to.
face.
They will be. Just the addition of Elias Lindholm makes them better. Another
Yeah.
year of Johnny Beecher. Charlie Coyle will be Charlie Coyle. Matthew Poitras, I
And
spoke about it last year. What his issues were in the faceoff dot was lack of strength. He added that strength, and in the preseason, he looked fine taking faceoffs.
I think he'll be better. And let's not forget Mark Kostelic is good at the dot too.
Mm-hmm. So I
So
think faceoffs are improved right off the bat without even dropping a puck.
yeah, and I think that will help their puck possession as well and maintain control of some of the game where they might have not been able to maintain it last year. Um, let's see. Sassy Blondie also says not a habit, but what has Giroux been doing the past couple of seasons? They're not contributing to the Ottawa culture. Um, just a quick answer. I mean, there's only so much one guy can do in the locker room. I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
bigger culture issue there, and that's part of why they targeted a guy like David Perron this offseason. They went out, and he was someone that they steadfast wanted, and same thing with Allmark. I think there's, those are guys that can show the balance between joking around, having fun, but also putting in the work and being serious about it and kind of helping back what Brady Tkachuk is trying to help instill there as well. But he's got a little bit of work to do in the maturity side of things, I think, in his game too. So
Okay, enough of talking other teams. This is a Bruins podcast.
Well, I mean, at least they're in the same division. It's not like we're talking Vegas or
Doesn't
something. But
matter.
Sassy also adds on the power play is gross still.
It
Well, like
is.
they finished seventh, so yeah, it could be a lot better, but it could still be way
They finished
worse.
seventh on the power play.
Oh no, well, what was it? The what did they
The
finish on the power
PK
play?
seventh.
Pennant PK with
I'm
7.
yeah. Yeah, the
Let's
PP is gross, but again, you're you're going to see improvement just with Lindholm there. Um, if Brazil gets time, you'll get a full season of him. Um, you know, Lori has more experience now. He'll be given some time to run with it. Lindholm should be getting a little more time on it. I think that the major pieces are there now for the power play. It's about execution. And I don't care what happened in preseason. It's preseason, doesn't mean squat. It all starts tomorrow night.
Yep. Matrix also adds in Castelica's great on the face-off dot as well as we were talking about. And then Wizard of Foz 96. Got to say, I love the username. Does Lysell
That's
get
a
a
great
call?
name.
Yeah. Does Lysell, and it's a good question too. Does Lysell get a call up once the hectic early season schedule settles down a bit, or do you think they prioritize building chemistry with who's already there?
Early in the season, it's all about building chemistry. Let's remember last year, even though they got off to a great start, it took them quite a while to get the system down and play the way Montgomery wanted them to play. I expect the same thing this season. Uh, they're not going to want to disrupt it, barring injury. I think Lysell, if anything, will be a mid-season call-up if things aren't working on the right wing, and he's shown in Providence that he's working or has worked on the things they wanted him to, that he might get a look.
Yeah, I think his play down in Providence will heavily dictate what his next move is. I know I'm going to credit Ty Anderson for some of this insight, but based on how he was when he went down and kind of the attitude he had coming up, there it sounds like there's a little bit of pouty, feeling sorry for himself, kind of adjustment that needs to be made. And that's not to say that it won't humble him a little bit to make him work harder. That's the goal. They just didn't. He didn't do the things that they told him he had to do to accomplish making the roster, and being consistent about it. So, if he goes down and he pouts and he gets off to a slow start in Providence, then there's no way they call him up, even with an injury. He's got to be performing down there before they even consider what's going on up at the big club to bring him up. Anything to add?
No, I started it. You added to it.
I just didn't know if there was any other thoughts that you had for it.
No,
And that goes with any of the guys. Honestly, I don't. And barring injury, I think the guys who got waived might be the first ones up. I know it pisses people off that we see Patrick Brown come up and go down, and it always is met with, well, why not Lysell? And you got to look at the circumstances for it when they make the move. So Matrix says, let's also not forget the impact Jay Leach will have on the defense by being on the bench this season. That was a comment, Dom. What's really funny about that is that's the comment that you made about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. And now people,
no, I made it at the end of last season. No,
yeah,
even last season. I
yeah,
argued about it when I said somebody needed to pay for the year before.
yeah,
And one of the biggest issues is they don't have a guy on the bench to coach the defense.
that
I
was
was
last year.
saying it during the season.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you were. Wow, it's been a while. Yeah, it will definitely help though, as Matrix points out. Shad's had a good question back here. How much do you think Montgomery's quality over quantity plays into the struggles to score?
Oh, God. Excellent question. And I'm glad you brought it up. A lot. When you have guys like Zaka, Marchand, Pasternak, um, even Charlie Coyle to an extent, Trent Frederick, um, who can rip the puck. Like, how many people actually think Pavel Zacha has a wrist shot or a snapshot that could rival David Pasternak's? Not many. You know why? Because you don't see it. So when you have guys like that that can rip the puck and you're wanting them to look for the perfect play or the perfect setup as opposed to putting it on net, I say it has a big difference. It makes a big difference. And that's my opinion. I mean, I see it not only at the level, I see it at the junior level where coaches want the same thing with guys that can absolutely rip the puck. And they're looking to pass instead of using their best asset, which is their shot.
Yeah. I think that's something that is in Zaka's head, especially when he was at center and he had other responsibilities as a center to worry about. Hopefully, he can simplify the game a little bit more when he's on the wing. We've seen him play better on the wing overall. So I'm excited to see that transition for him. Let's see.
Okay, but how do you explain it for Frederick, who played on the wing?
What, as far as more shots on the wing
Not
versus
shoot, yeah. Like Frederick can really fire the puck, but he doesn't. They're all looking for plays, and that's instilled in them by the coaching staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Frederick is he's I don't know. I don't know on that one. Let's see. James also says concerns from last season, routinely being outshot and puck transition. The playoffs magnified that. Apparently, we've seen Wizard of Oz. I thought it looked. Sorry, go ahead.
Go back to that last comment.
This one here, or James's.
The one you just had up and took down.
Concerns from last.
I don't think transition is going to be a problem this year. Even Zadorov can transition the puck. We know Lorei can. We know McAvoy can. I think we'll see an improved Lindholm with Jay Leach there. Even Brandon Carlo can transition. I don't think transitioning is going to be an issue. I think the issue last year was, and I've stressed this for over a year now, is there was nobody on the bench to coach the defenseman. And to me, that was a big issue.
Yeah,
Defensemen don't want to hear from Chris Kelly, who has never played the position, on how to transition the puck. You know, these guys are educated. They know Chris Kelly was a centerman, and they're like, "Well, what do you know about playing defense?" Or Joe Sacco.
To address Sassy's comment here, she asks that there was no defensive coach before. So back in 2000, up until 2022-23 when they had John Gruden behind the bench, because then it was just last year that he got promoted to head coach of the Toronto Marlies. And so last year they just didn't fill that role with someone who was behind the bench. They still had a D coach who would be on the 9th floor, right?
He was on the 9th floor. And he's more of a skills and development coach than anything.
Right.
So, it's a big issue. Just the difference from going from John Gruden to nobody was night and day on that blue line. The transition from going to nobody to Jay Leach will be night and day. I don't think there is anything to be concerned about with this defense, whether it's playing defense, whether it's transitioning, whether it's getting shots on net. I think we're going to see a big improvement.
Absolutely. And Johnny mentions every shot on goal is a goal till the goalie saves it. I am pro shot for sure. Fancy plays don't work in the playoffs.
No, they don't.
No, you got to just
Where the
pucks on
majority of
net.
the goals scored. Yeah, just look at where the majority of the goals are scored from.
Absolutely. And then Sassy also says the overpassing has to hopefully be minimized this season. Holy moly.
Especially on the power play.
Yeah, the power play is definitely a crucial spot where you see it stand out. They look for the perfect pass, the perfect shot, and just overall try to get fancy. And then next thing you know, the 2 minutes are up. So
I think having a guy in the bumper who is smart, who can react quickly in Lindholm is going to make a difference.
I think so too.
They won't be looking that perfect play that we're looking for will happen a lot quicker.
Yeah, especially with that upgrade, absolutely. What did you think of the way they did the pairs today at practice with Lindholm, McAvoy, Lohrei, Carlo, and Zadorov with Peak?
I think it's all interchange. I think we're going to see that change so often, not just through the season, but through a game. It's all going to depend on the opponent, who's on the ice, and what the game situation is. But I firmly, and I've stressed this many times, McAvoy is your number one, right? Carlo's your number two. Peak is your number three. The three on the left are all interchangeable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate the idea, though, the way that they have it set up with the bottom two pairs, a puck mover with a defensive defenseman on each. Not that Zadorov is going to move the puck like Lohrei. I feel like if you have Zadorov with McAvoy, he might be a little more hesitant and try to have McAvoy make the play and be a little more defensive sometimes. So, yeah, I agree with you that they'll be tossed around a blender just as much as the forwards will be. But if he's out there with Peak, he knows that he can make the offense happen more. But, my God, is he going to be a tank back there?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. Were there any? I'm trying to pull up the agenda that you had tweeted out earlier to see if there's anything else that I missed from it. Actually, I'm going to toss this one out there because Short Shift, if you get a chance after you listen to us, check out the Short Shift podcast. Those guys over there, I know you know Andrew and Ian.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys. They sent out a question. Buy or sell? The Boston Bruins have the best defense in the East this year.
Sorry, what's the question?
Do you buy or sell the statement that the Boston Bruins have the best defense in the East this year?
I don't know what they mean. Do you buy or sell?
Would you agree with the statement or not?
We've had this discussion many a times. If they're not number one in the division, how can they be number one in the league?
Who do you put above them in the division?
Well, I don't, but many people do. It's close. They're either number one or number two.
Yeah, I'll do some digging and I can't think of a team off the top of my head that has 1 through 7.
1 through 7, they're hard. 1 through, I mean, we had this discussion last night. We had it last week. 1 through 7, there's nobody better. 1 through 6, there might be a toss-up. Even maybe not 1 through 6, but 1 through 4 or 5, it'll be a toss-up.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find Sorry, I was just sifting through. Let's see. So we talked about the opening right roster, the cap situation. What else do you want to get into on the season expectations?
Well, yeah, we haven't touched that. Um, Aside from roster, um, I know we touched a bit on it last night when somebody asked us, um, in the regular season, what series do we see the Bruins winning and losing? And I thought they would lose the season series to Detroit and Florida. Um, is that enough to get them into first place? I don't know. I still think Florida will finish number one. Boston will finish number two. Uh, Toronto will finish number three. And I think Detroit gives Tampa a run and finishes number four.
Johnny says 65 wins in a Stanley Cup.
Mm. But I know you don't agree with my expectations because you have the Bruins finishing first.
I do. I do. Even now, especially with the addition of Swayman, I fully expect him to compete for the division title. Um, I think this is an offensive upgrade from last year. I know some people still question where the offense is going to come from. Well, roughly the same places that it came from last year. It just, you're subbing out, Heinen, who was not a massive offensive guy. And then you're also subbing out DeBrusque. But I think you're able to make those guys up in the aggregate overall, and you'll be able to grind other teams down heavily with the defense and the physicality of your bottom six. Johnny,
Here's my issue with them finishing first is that the month of October they have a tough schedule, really tough schedule. So they could be playing catch up from the beginning. And we know in this league, unless you're the 2019 St. Louis Blues, it's going to be difficult to play catch up. It always is.
yeah. Matrix says, I see Florida regressing a touch, 2 straight cup runs, loss of a couple core players in free agency. They just aren't as good as the last 2 seasons. I think they take a small step back. I think Montreal is going to just, Montreal. I think it's going to be a race to the bottom between them and Buffalo. Something's going wrong in Buffalo for sure right now. And
They need me. They need me to go manage the team.
yeah. Well, I mean, would you want to?
Well, yeah, because I'll tell you what, if I was the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres, the Boston Bruins would win the Stanley Cup.
Fair enough.
I'll trade you Tage Thompson. I'll even retain 50% of his contract for you.
Thanks. We appreciate that. Tell you what, we'll just give you Riley
There you go.
Tuppy and enough money to make it work.
That's fine. Done deal. Like I said,
Gordon
if I
Geek-
was GM of the Sabres, the Bruins would win the cup. I'll set you
Yeah.
up.
They went back to Lindy Ruff. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, also makes a good point. Sassy does. I think it depends on how quickly the team gels. I think the fact that they are on a road trip right now to start down in Florida will help. And who knows what's going to happen when it gets interesting as the hurricane starts to hit. So that might become more of an issue getting home. And when things like that go awry, teams can be brought together from it. So hopefully they are able to get in and out of Florida easily, we'll say. I would be willing to bet that Jacobs will have a plane waiting for him after the game and says, get home tonight.
No, I think Jeremy Swayman with his newfound money will do that.
Fair, yeah. Let's see. And then Wizard of Foz also adds in, can't wait to see how McAvoy and a rebounding Hampus contribute to the aggregate.
I think more so Hampus than McAvoy.
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah.
McAvoy dipped, but not as much as Lindholm did. So you need a bigger rebound from Lindholm.
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to see it, especially if if he's getting top minutes like he was last year, but not being utilized only in those defensive roles. Now that you have Zadorov as part of the mix on the left side, you have more confidence in Lohrei as well. That's a huge part of it. Last year, you weren't sure what you were going to get out of Mason Lohrei. He still has to work into some of the more crucial moments to see how much you want to put on him. But, every game he plays, he seems to be gaining more and more trust from the coaching staff, which is always a positive. Sassy adds in, it always seems we expect a rough October and they overperform.
Maybe, but I don't remember opening October that's as tough scheduled as this one is.
Yeah, this one's pretty rough. I know they also have. Let me just see if I can pull it up. So yeah, they have Florida, Montreal, LA to kick off the first 3 games of the season. Luckily, Montreal and LA are at home, so there'll be some time in there. Johnny says it's time for McAvoy to elevate to superstar status. How much more do you think we can get out of Charlie McAvoy? Let me put that as a question.
Can I tell a story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so depends on your definition of superstar. Now, I'm probably much older than most people in this chat. And I remember in 1972, and I apologize to everybody who is not religious right now in advance. But I remember in 1972 going to church on a Sunday morning, like the good Catholic boy I was, not am, just after the Bruins had won the Stanley Cup. And the priest in his sermon said, just like Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito are superstars, Jesus Christ was too. Okay, today, Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito wouldn't be known as superstars. They'd be known as elite generational talents, which we didn't use those phrases at that time. So, who is a superstar defenseman? We really don't have a generational one, but we have those elite superstar ones. There's one in Vancouver. There's one in Colorado. There's one in the making in Edmonton.
You're Bouchard up there?
Oh, he'll be up there. He'll be up there.
He's definitely been to grow. I definitely don't think we've seen his consistent ceiling yet.
No. So if they're the elite superstars and you're wondering when McAvoy's going to reach that level, I have to say, honestly, as much as it hurts to say, that he's not going to. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think he'll be that next rung down. Where, as Sassy points out, Dallas, Miro Heiskanen, New York Rangers, you got Adam Fox. I think those guys will be the same level as McAvoy.
Yeah.
Guys that you sit there and you go, they should be in the Norris conversation, but because you have Quinn Hughes, because you have Cale Makar, Evan Bouchard maybe gets his name in that conversation. Right now, you still have Roman Josi as well. I don't know if I'd put him in as that generational elite talent, but he's sure as hell on the verge of it if he isn't already there. Those are the guys that are going to prevent Charlie McAvoy, Adam Fox, Miro Heiskanen. Hell, you could even put Moritz Seider in that group as well, as guys will be in that elite tier, but won't end up winning a Norris because they're just not fully invested in the offense the way a Cale Makar is at his best. Ian says, Bobby Orr is God. Jesus can't play first-line defense. That's okay. Maybe you thinner, Dom, so...
Yeah, I saw that.
And then Sassy adds in because they don't score a ton, which is why they also get kicked down the voting list. Yeah. I guess the question for that then, Dom, would be when do you think we get a second offensive defenseman award?
When?
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I hate to say it because do not want to see it happen. Won't happen until Bobby Orr passes away.
Bobby
Orr's already been asked, and he doesn't want a trophy named after him while he's still alive.
So he has put the caveat on while he's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm afraid when it happens, it'll be the Bobby Orr Memorial Trophy.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. That's probably how it would happen, as unfortunately as that would be.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have that one, and then you'd have the Norris probably still. I don't see them changing that one. But I do think there are guys that should be recognized for the defensive part of their game. Brandon Carlo, people will knock him left and right because he doesn't produce offensively from the blue line, but he is easily one of, I would say, he might be more important to the lineup than Charlie McAvoy because...
Oh, I know. No, that's stretching it, Chris.
I said might be.
Stretching. No, it's
defensive minutes, heaviest defensive minutes away from him.
That's not even conversation worthy. But I will give you this, though. If they had an award for defensive defenseman, Brandon Carlo would get votes. He'd be a finalist just about every year.
Swede says Johnny Gaudreau likely will have a trophy renamed after him. I know there's been talks about that. I don't know if they're going anywhere significant, though. Have you heard anything on that?
I haven't heard a word. Which trophy would you rename after Johnny Gaudreau?
Don't they have one?
I don't mean any disrespect, but what trophy would you rename Johnny?
Humanitarian stuff.
A what?
Like a human the one that does the most off the ice. I'm trying to think of which one it is.
King Clancy.
Thank you. That one. Could they rename the King Clancy after?
But the King Clancy Award was donated by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Think of what King Clancy was to the Toronto Maple Leafs. You think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to want to change the name of that trophy?
Probably not.
Right.
Yeah, if they have to create a new one, what's the award for? They already have so many of them. Ian suggested the Lady Bing.
I don't know. Has Johnny Gaudreau ever won the Lady Bing? Like I see them changing the Selkie to the Bergeron before I see anything being changed to Gaudreau. And I'm not saying it to be disrespectful.
I know you're not. I don't think anybody here is leaning towards that. I get where you're coming from. What is the award that he exemplified the most that comes off as needing or deserves to be changed. Like his passing was absolutely tragic, but just because
Mhm.
someone passes tragically, it doesn't mean we have to run out and rename an award after them.
Right.
Now, like Bergeron, or these guys did things in the game that nobody has ever done. Bergeron won what 6 Selkies and was nominated for
Yeah.
it 8, or no, he was nominated for it every year, pretty much. He just top 3 finish, what, a third of his career.
I can't remember how many times, but
I mean, there were times where he didn't win it just because voters would look at it and go, "We don't want to give it to him again."
right. And then there's Orr, who won all the most prestigious trophies there is to win as a defenseman.
Yeah, this guy was putting up Gretzky numbers on the front end from the back blue line.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the Masterton I could see, but what is the Masterton awarded for? And then tell me if it fits.
I don't remember that one. That one is the player annually to the National League Hockey player who best exemplifies the quality of perseverance. So that's kind of like the comeback player of the game, comeback player of the year award kind of thing.
And it doesn't really fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see that one either. So, yeah, Sassy wrote or change the role. Absolutely. Overcoming adversity. Yeah, basically. Coming back from injury. I'm trying to think of who might be in line for that one this year at this point. I mean, Doughty, if he comes back early enough and he has a Drew Doughty-like season, could get it this year. Line
Yeah, it's like too early, way too early.
Yeah.
Somebody
Johnny
could
says,
get injured tomorrow.
Yeah. Johnny says McAvoy works on shot selection from point and gets 5 to 7 more goals a year and starts hitting like the Mack truck. He can be on a nightly basis, and we're close. That's what we're saying. He can be close to that level. I just don't know if he's ever going to get to that level. I'd love to see it. Trust me, I'm rooting for the kid, but I'm hard pressed to say he surpasses Cale Makar in a season at that point. So, Chaz actually has a good point. Gabriel Landeskog, if he comes back and has a decent season, he'd probably be the favorite for that. Actually, that's a very good point right there. Let's see. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. Let's see. I know, Dom, you hate predicting things, so I guess we'll avoid that one. Let's see. Someone already has cancer, taking treatments. Yeah, Dakota Joshua. I think that's who Sassy's thinking of here. If he gets back to playing before the season ends. So James asks, what Bruins prospect are you most excited for? Who should we be watching? If you circle one Bruins prospect to watch the most this year, Dom, who would you pick? Oh, Dom, I think you muted. Or frozen. Can't tell which. Nope, you're moving. Gotta love the live show technical difficulties here. Well, my pick right now, as it stands, would be Fabian Lysell to see where he goes this year, and to see how they utilize him down in Providence. I'm not sure what's going on with Dom's mic over here. Defensively, I would add in down in Providence to see Jackson Edward. Trying to see if we can get him back on the mic here. I still got nothing, Dom. I'm wondering if it's in the settings. But while we wait for Dom to work on his mic a little bit, I want to remind everybody who's watching, head on over to patreon.com/whatsbrewing. We do have some folks who have already signed up, and hopefully we can get some folks who will qualify and who will join a tier to win this jersey on giveaway here. Oh, Dom, we think we got you back here. I hear noises.
Okay.
There we go.
Trevor Kuntar. There. Go on.
I was just holding up and showing the jersey, the awesome Brad Marchand jersey that was donated to us from my buddy John Hendren over at Hat Trick Hobbies. Great giveaway item here. You could win it by signing up on the Patreon. So glad I had a couple things to go over while we were waiting for your audio to get fixed.
Yeah, I was stretching my feet and I unplugged myself. So we're plugged back in. So.
That's okay. Like I said, it's the joys of doing a live show.
Yeah.
So,
but to answer the question, Trevor Kuntar is the guy I'm most excited to watch. Of course, there's Dean Letourneau. But Trevor Kuntar is the one I'm most excited to watch because some of you may not remember this, but I said he was going to be my dark horse to make the roster this year. And then free agent frenzy happened and they made all these signings. So I reneged on that pick.
Yeah, but at the time you made that pick, it wasn't a terrible idea. So I remember when you did that. So real quick as well, just as an update, we have a handful of votes on doing an opening night game Twitter Spaces tomorrow. I don't know if you'll be able to jump on for a little bit at all, Dom, or not. But we have 75% of the votes say we should do one. So I'm thinking we should be able to pull one off. As the excitement of the opening day game comes around. So
usually when hockey's on, I turn off my phone, I disconnect my internet, and I watch hockey. So I don't know.
That's okay. If you that's totally, I can still host one.
I can't do two things at once. Although I can watch 4 hockey games at once, but I can't be typing and watching hockey at the same time.
Well, the good thing with the Spaces on Twitter is it's audio. No video, just audio.
Yeah, but I can't talk at the same time either. It's like I gotta concentrate on hockey.
That's fine. I totally get it. And we'll have to do some stuff now that the regular season is starting. So Spaces isn't something we can make exclusive to our Patreon followers. So maybe we'll have to do something another time soon for those folks as we get those folks rolling in here. But we will get this episode out tomorrow as well. And you know, I do you have anything else, Dom? I know it's been a long off season. We've had a lot of repetition when it comes to topics, especially the Jeremy Swayman contract. Thank God that's all over. We can all be excited to watch him. Yeah, who? Jeremy Swayman. Who's heard of him? I don't know anything about that
next
guy.
discussion Next discussion we have about him will be what everybody says. Oh, he should have stopped that one.
Yeah, right. I'm going to throw this up here so that people can see that link. And Dom, any final thoughts here? It's a couple minutes before 8 o'clock, but we can let folks get to the rest of their evening and rest up. Tomorrow's going to be a long night with opening day. Unless anybody's got a
Hmm.
last question in the chat here, we the last little thing